Hello, this is Alan welcoming you to the 1992nd edition of the Enfield Talking newspaper. The dateline is 26th of February 2015. The readers this week are Sonia, Jenny, myself, and we have Jason on the controls. The items that we will be reading come from our local newspapers, the Enfield Gazette and Advertiser and the Enfield Independent, and are their copyright. Our title music is Country Rock Polka, composed by Pat Prilly, Fernand Bouillon and Harry Breuer, and is performed by Jean-Jacques Perret, and is used with his kind permission. Local stories include A&E boss found hanged days before report release, a lot of bother, and of course I know who my MP is. I'm married to him. If you're experiencing any problems receiving your Enfield Talking newspaper, please phone Diane de Jersey on 020-8805-6578. She is your listener's representative and will be pleased to help you. Now Sonia will read the first item of local news.
The boss of a troubled NHS A&E unit was found hanged days before a report criticising his department was published. Mark Chanel was joint head of the casualty unit at North Middlesex Hospital in Stirling Way, Edmonton, which was found wanting in a Care Quality Commission report days after his death in August last year. Sharon King, a colleague of Mr. Chanel, who was being treated for anxiety by his GP, told an inquest on Tuesday, February the 10th, how she became concerned about her colleague on August the 6th and called round to a flat he shared opposite the hospital and found him hanging by his neck from a wardrobe. Mr. Chanel, a highly regarded nurse manager, was put in charge of the hospital's A&E department to manage the flow of patients following the closure of Chase Farm Hospital's A&E department. But a row broke out among senior managers when it was discovered MP David Burrows had been abandoned in a corridor for 13 hours in June 2014. It happened on a day that saw 600 patients pass through A&E, 200 more than planned for. The CQC report said patients at risk of deteriorating were not always identified early, which may lead to poorer outcomes. Dr. Edward Lamuran, lead A&E consultant who headed the department with Mr. Chanel, said he was unaware that his colleague and friend might harm himself. The inquest was told that the highly regarded and extremely professional Mr. Chanel, 44, a father of two, had wanted to leave the Edmonton hospital for a job working for the London Ambulance Service, but became distressed when he failed to get the job. Witnesses told the hearing at Barnet Coroner's Court that Mr. Chanel had to juggle the stressful job of managing the A&E department with a troubled personal life.
Friends who have shared neighbouring allotment plots for almost a quarter of a century have vowed to fight plans to turf them off their land. Several allotment holders have been ordered to hand their plots over by March the 2nd, despite many of them having tilled the land for more than 20 years. Enfield Council, which owns the plots in Hounsfield Road, Edmonton, says the allotments have been allowed to fall into a sorry state, and the plot holders have been warned they will be evicted if they refuse to remove inappropriate structures they have built on the site. Konstantinos Achilleos, who has been growing vegetables on his plot for 22 years, said many members of the allotment community had been left in shock by their treatment. He told the Advertiser, "We cannot believe this. So much work has gone into our plots over the year, but they seem to have new managers at the council. We've never had a problem before. I was told that as I had a barbecue on the site, I was being given notice to leave for holding gatherings there. It is ridiculous. The letter even seems to say I can't be sociable with neighbouring plot holders. There are disabled people, and a lot of people are very good friends. We cannot understand why we have been victimised. Chris Bond, Cabinet Member for Environment and Community Safety, said the Council was taking a hard line because some of the structures were unsafe. Since September 2014, the Council has been working hard to address a range of allotment tenancy breaches at all sites in the borough, which, if left, would pose a risk to the health and safety of allotment users, he said. In September, every allotment holder in the borough was written to, outlining their responsibility in using and maintaining their plot in line with the terms and conditions. Currently, the Council is working with tenants on the Hounsfield site to address the oversized and potentially dangerous structures that have been constructed by the allotment tenants. Unfortunately, while the tenants have been given a number of opportunities to address their tenancy breaches, a minority have not taken any action. We had no alternative but to issue a final warning to bring to an end their tenancies.
A Tory MP was left red-faced last week after it emerged his team had been canvassing in the wrong constituency and had knocked on the door of current Edmonton MP Andy Love. A campaign activist for David Burrows, the MP for Enfield Southgate, called at an address in Queen Anne's Gardens, Bush Hill Park, to tell the resident all about what her MP, Mr. Burrows, had done for the area. However, when the resident in question explained that in fact the house fell within the Edmonton constituency of Labour MP Mr. Love, a heated debate ensued. Ruth Rosenthal told the Advertiser, "A woman called at my door and said she was there representing my Member of Parliament, the MP for Enfield Southgate. I said, Bush Hill Park is in Edmonton. She said, I think you will find you are wrong. I said, it has always been in Edmonton, and I know it is because my local MP lives here with me. He's my husband. Then Mr. Burrows himself actually called at my neighbour's door and introduced himself as her local MP. And she said, no, you're not. My MP is actually a great friend of mine and he lives in this street. As he walked down her path, he met up with the woman and said that they must be one street out of the boundaries. But I told the woman that they were miles and a half outside Enfield Southgate. Miss Rosenthal admitted that it had been something of a surreal experience. I thought for a second, have I really been married to Andy all these years? Is he really my MP? But really, it was very funny. Mr. Burrows has chalked the embarrassing mistake up to canvassing enthusiasm. He told the Advertiser, either my canvassing enthusiasm or the distraction of my phone got the better of me. I took the wrong turning through flats in Village Road, which on one side of the road are in my constituency and the other side is in Edmonton. Apologies for any confusion caused, but I suppose it could be good preparation for future boundary changes.
At Enfield Clinical Commissioning Group, we are committed to ensuring that the views of patients and carers are at the heart of our decision-making. We are currently looking at the future of existing NHS 111 and the GP out-of-hours service in North Central London and want to hear your views. We are proposing to integrate the current NHS 111 and GP out-of-hours services to make sure that we are providing the most efficient and effective service possible for residents of Enfield, with minimal delay getting the right response. As Enfield residents, you are invited to come along and share your views and experiences of existing services so that we can work together towards the most suitable solution. We will be holding public engagement events as an opportunity to hear from you. These are on Tuesday, the 3rd of March, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Green Towers Community Centre, 7 Plevna Road, Edmonton, North 9 OBU. And on Friday, the 6th of March, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Barnet Hospital Education Centre, Lecture Theatre, Wellhouse Lane, Barnet, EN5 3DJ. More information about the proposed changes can be found on the Enfield CGC website at www.enfieldccg.nhs.uk.
The family of a little girl who suffers from a debilitating illness have launched an epic fundraising appeal in a bid to buy her a specialised wheelchair that would revolutionise her life. 4-year-old Leyla Zenanos suffers from spinal muscular atrophy, a condition which causes severe muscle weakness and ultimately reduces mobility so severely that sufferers are forced to depend on technology to have any kind of quality of life. Although Leia has a wheelchair called a WYSIBUG, she is outgrowing rapidly, and in order to keep up with her classmates in school and in the playground, she needs a new state-of-the-art wheelchair. This wheelchair would just make her life so much better, her mum Lucia told the Advertiser. She has no mobility whatsoever, and this is her only chance of getting to move around and of playing with her brother and sister. However, the new wheelchair is likely to cost £25,000. Lucia, who cares for Leia and her 7-year-old sister and 21-month-old baby brother full-time, said, "We're a normal family. There's just no way we can spend that kind of money." But the family have come up with a way of raising money. They are using crowdfunding website Indiegogo, which allows friends, family, supporters and well-wishers to donate whatever they can to help the little girl. "Leia is very, very bright," added Lucia. "A new wheelchair that fits her and is comfortable will make a massive difference to her life. She's so sociable, she desperately needs this." The wheelchair would lower Leia onto the ground and also raise her up to the same height as adults or her classmates, meaning she could join in with games at school and at home. Lucia explained, "It will mean that she will benefit from a proper education. If she's comfortable, she can concentrate on learning, because with this new wheelchair, her head and hand will be perfectly positioned." So far, the family have raised £883, and they are hoping that the generosity of the community can get them closer to their goal of £25,000. Anyone who would like to donate to Leia's fund can log on to www.helpingleia, that's LAYA.org, and click on either of the ways to donate on the right-hand side of the page.
Calls have been made to the Jewish community to persevere in the fight against anti-Semitism. Faith and Communities Officer PC Steve Savell said anti-Semitism was very much on the policing agenda at a public meeting in Enfield Southgate. Opened by Enfield Southgate MP David Burrows, the meeting was also attended by the Community Security Trust and the all-party parliamentary group against anti-Semitism, and highlighted a rise in incidents across the UK. Mr. Burrows said, "We know from history that the litmus test for our valuing of our fellow human beings has, sadly, been our attitude to anti-Semitism." The communities officer added, "Anti-Semitic crimes are considered separately from other hate crimes so that there can be effective analysis of the presence of anti-Semitism, and there are squads and teams specially devoted to this." PC Savell also reassured guests that protection is often undercover and the perceived lack of policing should not raise concerns. Mr. Burrows added, "I am pleased that the meeting was able to inform and reassure my Jewish constituents of all the work that is being done locally and nationally to combat anti-Semitism. We must and will remain vigilant at all times to ensure that anti-Semitism does not gain foothold in our community, media or politics. It matters to us all for the sake of human dignity." Sonia.
A union activist and campaigner from Tottenham is Labour's prospective parliamentary candidate for Edmonton. Kate Ossamore, a GP practice manager in Palmer's Green and a constituency member of Labour's National Executive Committee, was elected on Saturday to represent Labour in the battle for Edmonton in May's general election. Labour members in Edmonton elected her ahead of Enfield Council's Cabinet Member for Education and Children's Services, Aoife Orhan, and former Mayor of Enfield, Kate Analu. Andy Love, the current Edmonton MP, announced last month that he would not be standing for election this year, prompting a scramble of political hopefuls to throw their hat into the ring to run in the seat. Last month, the Labour Party's National Executive Committee shortlisted 3 women to contest the battle to be the prospective parliamentary candidate. Miss Ossamore does not sit on the National Executive Committee's selection panel. She is a lay, that is, unpaid, activist for the Unite Trade Union, and her candidacy was endorsed by the union. She is also a trustee of the African Women's Welfare Association, based in Edmonton. A spokesman for Unite said that Labour Party members in Edmonton had voted overwhelmingly in favour of Miss Ossamore, and she secured more than 50% of the vote in the first round of counting. She said, "I would like to thank the local Labour members for electing me and look forward to continuing the campaign to ensure Edmonton remains Labour and we get Ed Miliband in Downing Street this May. This election will have huge consequences for Edmonton and the rest of the country. I'll campaign hard for a Labour government that will save our NHS and fight for local families being left behind by this government."
A group of parents has qualified as mentors to help pupils with their schooling and emotional well-being. More than 20 parents at both Suffolk's Primary School in Brick Lane, Enfield, and Brimsdown Primary School in Green Street received certificates at a special ceremony at Suffolk's on Monday. The 10-week accredited training course, run by skills provider and educational charity ASDAN, has equipped them with skills to support youngsters learn to read and write and help them deal with feelings and issues they may have. The parents were presented with their certificates by Enfield Council's Assistant Director of Education, Jenny Tosh. Suffolk's head teacher, Andrea Cassius, said her school was incredibly proud of all the parents' achievements, and it would enable them to be brought in on a voluntary basis to help struggling pupils. Dave Brown, who trained the parents, said, "It gives me a good feeling to know that children in this and other schools in this neighbourhood are going to benefit so much from working with a group of such thoughtful and kind people."
The steely grey of an industrial estate in the east of the borough might seem as if it is a million miles from the glamour of the Oscars' red carpet. But for one filmmaker, the flash of a paparazzi bulb and swish of a ball gown was the next natural step after filming a short on the Claverings industrial estate near Deepham's sewage works in Edmonton in March 2013. The Phone Call won the Oscar for the Best Short Film, Live Action, at the glittering ceremony in the Hollywood Bowl on Sunday night. The film, written and directed by Matt Kirby, stars Sally Hawkins and Jim Broadbent, and centres on one phone call made to a suicide prevention line. The filmmakers applied to Enfield Council to use the vacant commercial unit and now the authority are calling on other Oscar hopefuls to follow suit. Thrilled with the touch of glamour the Oscars have brought to the borough, council leader Doug Taylor said, "We'd like to congratulate the filmmakers, stars and production company on their fabulous win. This Oscar win shows that Enfield is an ideal location for shooting films, and we've got a long track record in working with film and television companies because of this. Anyone interested in filming in the borough can contact Strategic Property Services on 020 8379 1000.
The cost of childcare has soared by more than a third in Enfield in just 5 years, according to analysis by the Labour Party. The party has pledged to extend free childcare from 15 to 25 hours a week to help struggling families if it wins May's general election. The party commissioned a report by the Family and Childcare Trust, which found that childcare costs had increased by 36% in Enfield North, where Labour's Joan Ryan is hoping to regain her parliamentary seat. According to the report, families in London are now paying £2,268 more per year than they did in 2010 for a part-time nursery place for children 2 and older, and are paying 39.5% extra for similar nursery provision for a child under 2, despite average wages remaining largely static throughout the capital over the same period of time. The FCT's Childcare Cost Survey 2015, published on Thursday last week, shows that childcare in Enfield North tends to be cheaper than the London average. However, this still means that some parents in the constituency have seen costs for children aged 2 and over rise by more than a third, from £97 a week in 2010 to £132 this year. With the average gross weekly wage for full-time employees in Enfield North at £578 a week, many families are spending more than a fifth of their income on childcare. Ms. Ryan said, "Soaring childcare costs are another example of the cost of living crisis so many families have faced under this government. Many parents in Enfield North have told me about the financial hardship they face. Since 2010, wages have not kept pace with prices, and as a result, average earnings are down by £1,600 a year. A Labour government would extend free childcare from 15 to 25 hours for working parents, with 3 and 4-year-olds paid for by an increase in the bank levy."
Reaping the benefit of the recent retro revival for rhythm and blues and swing music are a band who have become firm favourites on both the blues and jump jive scene. The Cadillac Kings, who perform at Finchley's Arts Depot on Saturday, have been described as the UK's #1 blues swing outfit. Their high-energy mix of original witty songs, inspired by the sounds and styles of the 1940s and 1950s, plus a few well-chosen covers from the likes of T-Bone Walker, Roy Brown and champion Jack Dupree, should have the joint jumping. The five-piece were formed 15 years ago and have amassed a large following, mainly due to their talented musicianship and desire for their audiences to have as much fun as they do. Dressed in period outfits, sporting DA haircuts, singing into retro microphones, and with a West Coast sound, it's hard to imagine they first surfaced in Upminster, Essex. Each of them is hugely experienced with impressive CVs, having cut their teeth with several top blues bands before the Cadillac Kings came into existence. They have released 4 albums to critical acclaim, but it's their live performances for which the band are renowned, and they are kept busy playing clubs, theatres, dance halls and major festivals in both the UK and Europe, everywhere in fact, from the Canaries to Spitsbergen in the Arctic Circle. As one music pundit put it, If you're not tapping your toes attending one of their concerts, you need to check if you've still got a pulse.
A woman who was adopted at birth is appealing for help in tracing her biological family. Barbara Kensett tracked her birth mother, Nellie Della, née Daniels, to Edmonton and knows that her siblings grew up in the area, but she has lost touch with the family. Mrs. Della had a daughter, Beryl, who was born in 1943, 4 years before Barbara was born, as well as 3 sisters, Lily, Rose and Ivy, and 3 brothers, all of whom lived in the area when Mrs. Kensett was last in contact with them. Lily had 10 children. Mrs. Kensett told the Advertiser, "I think it was about 1983 that I first tracked down Nellie. At the time she was living in Logan Road in Edmonton. I also found out that Lily was a dinner lady at a school in Enfield. Sadly, my mother decided that she didn't want to stay in contact with me because it was too much for her, so we haven't spoken in years. I think it's very likely that some of my relatives still live in Edmonton or elsewhere in the borough, as they had strong ties to the area. Lily had 10 children, so it is quite a big family, and I would love to hear from them." Barbara, whose surname was changed to Morris when she was adopted, now lives in Ashford, Kent. Anyone with any information can contact Mrs. Kensett via the Advertiser.
A house in Enfield has been targeted as part of a gang crackdown in northeast London. Police swooped at the home in Durrance Road, Enfield, one of 11 in Enfield, Leighton, Walthamstow and Chingford, raided at dawn last Wednesday. A total of 13 people, 2 women and 11 men, were arrested for drug offences, including conspiracy to supply crack cocaine and heroin. All were taken to an East London police station where they were held in custody. Temporary Chief Superintendent Joe Chin, Borough Commander for Waltham Forest, said, "Drug dealing and the violence that comes with it blights communities, creating a culture of fear for those living and working in the area. Taking drug dealers and drugs off our streets should go a long way to improving the lives of everyone living and working in the area."
Well, we've now reached the end of side 1 of this tape. Please stop your machine now, take out the cassette, turn it over, and we'll see you on side 2.